All right, so for the next technique, we're going to mix the mica powders with some texture paste. Now the one that I'm going to use for this card is some translucent grit paste, but where is it? This is it with just regular texture paste. So texture paste itself is opaque, so it changes the way it looks. The translucent grit paste, because it's got a little bit of transparency to it, I find that you see a little bit more of the shimmer from the micas. Neither one is right or wrong. It's just whatever you prefer for whatever project you're working on. But this is how we're going to do it. So I'm doing 3 different colors here. You obviously don't need to do 3 different colors. You could just do 1 color. I just wanted for this background to have some different colors showing, as well as this way you get to see them mixing together. So I'm going to take I've got pewter, gold, and bronze. We're going to go with kind of a metallic theme for this one here. So I've got this is actually just a Slurpee straw. When my girls were little, I just kept them specifically for this and for glitter use, and it works perfectly. You could use a little spoon if you want. You could use a popsicle stick. But this way you have a little bit of control. I'll tell you right now, if you take the pot and try to pour some out, you have absolutely no control over how much comes out. And often it'll be way more than you actually need. So using a scoop is a better way to do it. There we go. So on my little mat here, I'm just going to mix it together. Till it's all mixed. Now I'm going to, because they're going to be mixing up on the card anyways, I just rubbed my as much of that paste off of my spatula, my palette knife, just to get it clean. If this wasn't a design that I wanted everything to be pristine, then I would have used a cloth or a wet wipe or whatever. But because they're all going to be mixed on the card anyways, it doesn't need to be perfect. All right, those are all mixed together as much as I need. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've got this is just like washi tape. I'm going to tape that down so that that doesn't move on me, and then I'm going to tape my stencil down. Now the reason to do this is so when you go to, after you've got the paste down, when you go to lift it up, if you lose track of it and it falls again, it falls in exactly the same spot. So this way I can lift it up and then I can start pulling it so that I don't have to worry about impacting my design. So I'm just putting these in some random spots. A little bit of each, and then after I've got a little bit of each, I'll go and smooth it all out. I'm only concentrating on the side of the card because this stencil isn't the width of the full panel. I don't want to do the full panel because you're not going to get it with this stencil anyways. So I'm just doing little bits of it. The one thing you do want to be sure of when you're doing this is make sure that you make enough paste for the design you're wanting. When you mix your own paste like this, you don't have a lot of control over consistency. So if you don't make enough, chances are your next batch is not going to be the exact same color, the exact same consistency. So see how I can lift this like this? I can take this off. This needs to be washed fairly quickly. I don't want any of that medium to dry on there. And then I'm going to put this aside to dry. And it needs to dry completely before we move on with the card, but I happen to have one already done, ready and dry. However, before I do anything, I'm going to wipe this up. And then really I would put this on another card. I wouldn't waste it, but for this, so that I have a clean spot to work on, I'm just going to wipe it up. There we go, and a little bit of paper towel to dry it so that we're not working on a wet surface. All right, so our piece here is dried. Obviously, like these are the same colors, but obviously with this one I got a little bit more gold. This one has a little bit more of the bronze. So it has a bit of an organic look to it, which I like. So I'm going to take this yellow piece of cardstock that is the same as my background. I'm going to stamp my sentiment, and I'm going to emboss it with black embossing powder. There we go, put the lid back on. Get some scrap paper here. Tap as much of that powder off, because if there's a section that doesn't have, or if there's this like little flakes of powder on there and you melt it, it's going to stay where you melt it. So if there's some that you want to remove, take a soft brush and just brush those away. Let's get the powder back in here and then we'll emboss it. There we go. And if you've never embossed before, the embossing powder with the heat gun, it goes from like a granular opaque to shiny. So it's really, you can see exactly what part is done and what's not. This is a heat gun. It emits heat. It doesn't blow air. So a blow dryer would not work the same. A blow dryer would just blow air, which would end up drying the ink and blowing your powder right off your project. So you do need to have a tool specifically for embossing to do that. All right, now I'm just going to line up my sentiment with the edge of the ruler so that I can get as close or even of a border all the way around as possible. Go. And then you could glue it on flat, but because there's dimension in that texture paste, I like to use some pop-up dots with it. So I'm going to flip it over. And I like to put one on each end and then one in the center. It just depends on how big your sentiment is. For this size of sentiment, I think 3 is plenty. If it was longer, I'd use more. And then put it nice and even. So there you go. Using mica pearls with texture paste in a nice, simple, masculine looking card. But really cool how you get that texture with the mica powder, but you still see all the beautiful color of them.